Obviously, you mentioned last week about the Deegan with the Fox set to be announced, and he'll be racing at the World Supercross in Argentina there. So, any word on how his recovery is going? And do you think he races any 450 rounds at all in Supercross, or will it just purely be 250 title hunt?
So I think he's fine. Like I would bet he's riding now. I would just guess it's slowly because it's been what 3 weeks, over 3 weeks
Hmm.
now. So I would think he's probably starting to mess around a little bit. He does have some time before he races in Argentina, but he's not going to want to go in there unprepared either. So like with that plated collarbone, he could have raced Ironman. Now the pain and the strength and all those things weren't in place for him to race. But if he went out there and rode and was like, I don't think I can do it at 10 days or whatever, like he's probably already at least riding the turn track, working on some things, and he will steadily progress forward. And yeah, he's got a lot of changes to make. I'm sure the PR is coming with him switching to Fox. That's all done, long since done. I've seen photos of it. That's all happening. So I'm sure that'll come out at some point here. And as far as like, does he race any West Coast Supercrosses? I think there's a plan in place. The questions will be, how does he feel in December? Because I think it will be pretty easy for them to pivot and do it. They're gonna send a race ready 450 on the truck to California. Like there's no doubt in my mind that's going to get sent, and then he'll be practicing. We'll see how Argentina goes. See if he races Australia. Test in November, December on the 250 and the 450, and then I think they'll just make a judgment call. Like if he's crazy competitive against Justin Cooper and Cooper Webb and these guys that they know are good enough, right? Like if he's as good as them or better, I think they take a swing at it because there's two ways to look at it. One, there's really nothing to lose. You get your feet wet, you earn the expectation, and you kind of see where you're at. The other side of that coin is there's a lot to lose because the expectation is so high from the fan base. And if you don't deliver, it's going to be viewed as a huge letdown. So I don't know where I kind of come down on that. It really doesn't matter. All that really matters is where does Brian and Haiden and the team come down on that. And I think that will kind of guide their decision making. If he's not 100% good to go and like, guys, like I think he can be in the mix type riding, I don't think they'll do it. I think if it's a situation where they're going to like take just your average guy, like a factory guy, but not the whirlwind media circus around Haiden that he has, I think it would be a no-brainer for him to do it. The variable is the expectation and the social media and I would say unfair expectation even of that. Like that kind of disallows him to go in and underperform. Like he can't do it unless he's ready to be in the fight. So they're going to have to kind of suss that out and make a really smart judgment call because what he doesn't want to do is think he's ready and then show up in Anaheim and go, oh no, we're not even close. That is not a fun thing to go through. We've seen it before. I'll give you an example. 2 years ago at the Feld Media Days that I mentioned prior that are in December at Anaheim Stadium, everybody to a man that on whether it was KTM or Husky or Eldon Baker's program et al., everybody said Malcolm Stewart's gonna win Anaheim 1. There's no way that anybody can beat that guy right now. Nobody at our facility can even stay close to him. There's no way. They weren't even close. Like they literally weren't even close. And what can happen is you're in your own little world, like you're in your own orbit, and you ride with the same guys over and over and over and over. Well, if that pace isn't good enough, you convince yourself that it is. So, for instance, Justin Cooper, Cooper Webb, Haiden, whoever else, Anstey, whoever else is in that group, whether they're at MTF or the Star facility or wherever, if that's what they think is good enough, and it's like an echo chamber, basically, echo chamber of speed. And if that pace is just nowhere near what Jet and Hunter have going on, what Chase Sexton has going on, what Eli Tomac has going on at his track and in California, you can show up and be in a world of hurt and not know it. So that's going to be an interesting thing for them to kind of sort out, is like, okay, well, we're as good as Webb here, but is this like practice Cooper Webb? And when he shows up and has to turn it up at Anaheim, he's going to be a lot better. I don't know how they're going to really kind of parse that out. So it's going to be fascinating to watch. I'm just kind of like trying to walk through the difficulty in making that decision at the time, simply. And there's a lot of upside in being Haiden Deegan, obviously. I think this is one of the only downsides to being Haiden Deegan that I've come across.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. And from your personal perspective, what would you believe he views success in that 450 class to begin with? Would he be fine with, say, 7 to 10? Would it be top five is acceptable? Or it'd be interesting because obviously they got high expectations. He's a winner. He wants to win every race he sort of competes in. But what would you personally think, they might think success is?
I think he needs to be in the conversation, right? It doesn't mean you have to win, obviously. It doesn't mean you even have to be on the podium, but you need to be relevant. Relevant's probably the best word I could use. I don't know that there's a position that it has to be. He may end up seventh, but if he's running around the front and battling with the protagonist of the championship, that's enough. Like they need the headlines, they need the confidence boost, they need everybody that's there to leave the stadium, whether it's industry or fan, going, well, I saw enough. He's going to be good, right? That's it. That's all you need. I don't care what the result is. He could crash. Don't care. But if you're going to do it, you need to prove that you have what it takes to go with those guys. You can't start seventh and drift back to 11th like we've seen a lot of 250 guys do. That's not going to work. Like that is not like Christian Craig. Like I can name a million guys that have moved up and that's what happened to them initially. It can't be that, or else you're going to have a lot of people that have been waiting. Not me, I don't care, but a lot of people. For as many people that love Haiden Deegan, there are a lot of people that don't like Haiden Deegan, and those people, if you give them that window, they're going to be all in on. See, I told you. Wait till he gets on a 450. You don't want to give him that opportunity. If you're Team Deegan, you don't want that door opened. So he just needs to be in the fight, show that he can ride with those guys, pass them. If they pass him back, that's fine. Nobody expects to win right away. It's more just like signs of life that this is going to be a successful venture. That's it. Just in a nutshell, that's it.
Yeah, that's a really sound assessment of the situation, mate. It's certainly going to be interesting to see how he does. And I guess another man that, you mentioned those Feld Media days briefly there, having Prado at them with the KTM team will be really interesting to see. There'll be some pretty interesting questions his way about how the last year's gone, mate, because it's going to be an interesting way he's going to approach it. And there's probably be a fair bit of pressure and expectations from him and the wider sort of media, motocross world. The fans are definitely going to have a bit of a spotlight on him. It hasn't gone to plan whatsoever the way he's handled himself. There's been a lot of criticism of that. And obviously, if you look back a year ago, roughly, he did that Gypsy Tales podcast where he was stoked on the bike, stoked on everything, stoked on the gear. So, fast forward now and we're on the verge of him getting announced, as a KTM factory rider for next year. So just how's it all going to be for him, mate? It's going to be one of the most sort of eagerly watched stories, just like that Deegan one, isn't it, of 2026?
Yeah, it's. I think if you believe that you're dead certain of how this is going to go, you could tell me with absolute certainty of how 2026 is going to go, you're fooling yourself. And I would tell you to your face, you're fooling yourself. There's no way to know. We've seen him ride what is essentially a factory KTM and Supercross. It was okay. It's fine. 10th place. Nothing to get excited about. It's okay. Not so much different than what we saw at the beginning of this year on the Kawasaki. Anywhere from 8 to 11. Totally okay. Now in the mud, he won a heat race at San Fran. Cool. Most Supercrosses are not the muddiest races in history. So I don't think we're going to get some outlier from that type of result in Supercross. I just don't see a catalyst or any sort of reasoning to believe it's going to be better than that in Supercross. Why would we? He raced one race, two races in 2025. He didn't practice at all since then. other than this offseason, he's going to practice Supercross. So why would he make a huge jump? That doesn't make any sense at all. So I'm not going to assume it will. The real question, and it's going to be the same question we asked ourselves all spring in 2025, was what does motocross look like? It's the same damn question that we had last year, and it's going to be the same question that we have all the way up until Fox Raceway, because I am, and I'm probably contradicting myself. I'm very certain of what Supercross is going to look like if he stays healthy. Lots of top 10s, some top 15s, nothing super flashy. If the whoops are easy, he'll be better. If they're really tough, he'll be worse. That's just what it's going to be. And I feel very confident in that take. He needs to stay healthy, though. He's like, come hell or high water, he needs to be riding and training and preparing for pro motocross all spring, not in Spain, not in physical therapy, not waiting to get back on his motorcycle. That can't happen. That cannot happen if he wants to be successful this coming summer. I don't really know what next summer is going to look like. I think he believes it's going to all be for the better. If pressed, I would say that motocross will be some flashes of brilliance, some really fast lap times. The question is that good enough to be anywhere near the championship fight? Because in 2025, it was not. It simply was not. I don't know if it was him. I don't know if it was a motorcycle. I don't know if it was a combination of the two. There's a lot of moving parts, right? Mentally, physically, team-wise. Once I think momentum and confidence can go two different ways. It can be your best friend or your worst enemy. And once that confidence and enthusiasm and kind of the forward momentum gets broken, it's really hard to get it turned back the other way. And I think it snowballed him in the wrong direction. So a lot of times, whatever a rider believes is going to end up being true. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So with Jorge, if he believes that this KTM is going to be the answer, he's going to be better. I do believe he will be better. Doesn't mean the bike's better. They could be exactly the same damn bike with different color plastics and colors on them. But if he believes that it's going to be better, then he will be better by default. The question, as I come back to again, is better good enough? Like, how much better is that? Is that good enough to be in the fight with Hunter and Jet and Chase and Tomac? Because this year it was not close. He was not close to that, really. Especially once Jet got back to full strength, he was nowhere near Jet. And that's the expectation. Like, you don't have to ask him. We heard people all summer ask him, what will you be happy with? Well, winning. He wants to win. He's a long way from winning right now. Like, he is, or I don't want to say right now. We'll see what next summer brings. This summer, he was a long way from winning. So he's put a lot of pressure on himself here with all of this, all the shenanigans that have gone on, the comments, the team drama, leaving a 3-year contract after 1 year. Like, imagine forcing your way out of a contract with Kawasaki and Monster for multiple millions of dollars. He's put a lot of pressure on himself now. He has the situation he wants, but he has, believe he has a lot more pressure in 2026 than he would have had in 2025. Or like if he stayed at Kawasaki, I think he would have no pressure in 26. Like, we already kind of know what we're getting. Would it be any fun? No. Would it be a lot better? Probably not either. So that would be an interesting question. Like, if I was interviewing him, I would say, hey, would you rather be like have the pressure of every eyeball upon you in 2026, but you have the team and motorcycle you want? Or would you rather have no pressure, no expectation, but you're on this program that you don't believe in anymore? I think he would choose the former, but that comes with a lot. Like, that comes with everybody waiting to say, I told you so. You did all this. You went through all this. You burnt bridges. You pissed a lot of people off. You upset people that believed in you, people that went to bat for you, like Bruce Sternstrom moved heaven and earth to get him signed to that team. I can't imagine that's not scorched earth at this point. You did a lot of damage to get here. And those people, I'm not saying Bruce is, that's not what I'm trying to say, but a lot of people, if this doesn't work, are going to be like, cool, man, great job. You did all this and it's still not working. So again, I don't claim to have the answer, but it's a, to me, fascinating human dynamic of what's going to happen, whether he's successful or not in 2026, based off of the dramatic actions he chose to go through at the end of 2025.
Yeah, that's excellent insight there. It's kind of a no excuses sort of for him now in pro motocross, especially the bike he knows he wants to ride it. If things go bad, you sort of don't know what the future would hold for him. Would an MXGP return probably be the most likely then at that point, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. I don't, man. At some point, we're gonna have to. Somebody's gonna write a biography of this whole saga, right? Because I think we're just getting started. Like I truly do. Like we've gone through so much with this guy, and I think we have so many chapters left to write in this guy's career. And I don't know where it goes from here. I'll give you an example. Everybody at Motocross Nations from the MXGP side was asking, "Do you guys know what's going on with Prado?" Like, you guys are supposed to be the ones that know what's going on with Prado. Like, why are you asking us? We don't know anything. So it's just been that kind of situation. Finally, we have some clarity that we know what's going to happen. But if you told me, you gave me a laundry list of what this looks like in 2 or 3 years, I wouldn't. Six and one, half dozen the other. I wouldn't be able to tell you what's going to be right or wrong.
Oh, it's going to be so interesting to see play out. And I guess so many of those parallels apply to Sexton in some ways. He's stepping into the Kawasaki team. He's obviously changing bikes again. He's obviously looking for something that'll really make everything come together for him, even though he's won plenty of titles. But it's still a lot for him to, take on that burden and trying to be immediately up there to beat the likes of Jet Lawrence, Cooper Webb, Eli Tomac. So, yeah, how do you think Sexton's going to approach it, mate? It's sort of, it's his times now. He's going to be the absolute main man, just like he was at KTM essentially. And who's his teammate going to be? Have we got any movement there? Obviously, Shimoda was mentioned, but, it's hard to see that happening just yet. So anything on there?
Yeah, I mean, I think Chase will be fine. Like, to me, I have to be careful here. The Chase and Prado situations are not all that different to me. Now, did Chase handle it a little bit better? Yeah, a lot better. Arguable. He didn't break the contract. He didn't get, he served it even though he wasn't happy. He rode to the terms of his contract, even though he did miss some races this summer. But I think their thought process isn't all that dissimilar, where they're constantly looking at some other situation going, my situation is not good. If I was on that one, I'd be a lot better, right? Because think about it. Prado's looking at the bike Chase is on going, if I had that bike, I'd win. And Chase is looking at, I guess, Jason Anderson's bike going, if I was on that bike, I'd win, right? Like, I don't think that either of those are logical thought processes. By definition, both of them are looking at the other side going, I want that. And the other guy's looking at, I want that over there. And both of them hate their current situation. Like, how can that possibly be true? Like, one of them, well, I'll say this, one of them's wrong. How about that? One of them has to be wrong by definition. They can't, like the Spider-Man meme, looking at each other going, if I had what you had and you had what I had, we'd both be winning. Well, one of you's wrong, and maybe both of them might be wrong. Hell if I know. But it's going to be interesting to see, because I really like, and I want to be careful with this because I really like Chase Sexton. He's never been anything but nice to me. I really like the way he kind of carries himself most of the time. I like him as a person. I really like him as a racer. So I want to be careful about how I approach this. But I also worry about Chase. He seems to be constantly searching for something, right? Like, I think there comes a point where you have to just look at the bike and say, this bike's really good. It can win. I have to be really good on this motorcycle. Okay. I've talked to Hunter Lawrence about this at length at times, and he has a really interesting philosophy on it, where the bike is going to be the bike to a certain extent. You can only change the bike so much, and it has certain characteristics and certain tendencies. At a certain point, you have to change your riding technique and riding style to match what that bike does or doesn't do well. You can't always say, I hate everything about the bike. I'm going to keep changing it until it does what I want it to do. Sometimes you have to be willing to adjust your riding style and riding technique and work on yourself to match what the motorcycle does well. And that takes some, I think, sometimes a hard swallow and say, okay, I'm going to swallow my pride here and I need to be better in certain areas because the bike, like motorcycles have tendencies. Hondas are they're working on it, but they've been twitchy for a long time. They've been front end nervous for a long time. They've been working on balance. Well, if you know that that's what a bike does, you need to work on your technique, your approach to riding, setting up the bike to know that it does those certain things. You can't just say, "Well, I'm going to, turn a tomato into an orange." You just can't necessarily always do that. And I think Chase is always, always looking at the bike going, it needs to be better. It needs to be better. It needs to be better. And I think that often overrides the fact, shouldn't use probably override. It takes the place of, I got to have a really good bike. Now the rest is up to me. And I'm not saying that always happens, but the amount of times I've heard coming into a weekend that Chase completely, fundamentally changed his motorcycle from the top down, different shock, different fork setting, different linkage, different clamps. Like, you can't tell me that you change everything and it's just magically better. Like the right process, and I probably shouldn't say the right process, but from what I've learned and been explained, you need to take incremental steps to make changes and be better. And they just kind of throw the kitchen sink at it repeatedly. And I really think that disrupts his confidence. I think it keeps him from going into the weekend, like consistently going into the weekend, knowing that everything's going to be really good. I think it's just a giant guessing game a lot of the time for him, and they're making sweeping changes on race weekend, and there's a lot of frustration. So I don't have the answer for Chase Sexton. There's like terms that I've heard people use, and like he's a searcher. He's always searching for the next setting, a better setting, instead of, hey man, we've got a really good base here, and now we're gonna really work on getting, like, I'm gonna get better. We're gonna work on everything around this base setting instead of constantly trying to make sweeping changes to it. Because if you're constantly changing it, there's no way you can really hone in on anything. Like it's always just constant change. That I just don't believe there's any way to have consistency when the only thing consistent in your setup is change. Like I guess that's probably the best way I can put it. If change is the only constant, how are you ever going to be able to replicate the same result?